Hello and welcome to Nikolai's Genetics Lessons. In this video I'm going to talk about population genetics, and as usual I recommend you to stop video here, read the questions, answers, choose the correct answers, and when you would be ready you can run video again and you can compare your answers with my answers and explanations. So here is the first question: in which of the following types of societies would genetic drift have the least likelihood of causing rapid evolution? And answer A. A band of 12 isolated humans living 70,000 years ago in southern Africa. And answer B. Japan today. And C. A community of 40 members of religious sect who have had nothing to do with their neighbors in Pennsylvania for 8 generations. So which answer to choose? Let's talk about each one in turn. So answer A, a band of 12 isolated humans living 70,000 years ago in southern Africa. So imagine that these 12 people represent gene pool, and because gene pool would be limited, number of different alleles would be also limited. Allele means new variation of the gene. So we have 23,000 of genes, and each gene can have its own variation. So all these variations would make a gene pool. Of course, when we have just a few people, variation of such gene pool would be not as big as, for example, of the bigger society. So let's pretend that these small circles represent different alleles, and imagine that in such small group of just 12 isolated humans we have this gene pool. So what would happen if another 12 people would come in this society, and those people would have different alleles? So in this gene pool we can find new variations of alleles. So 12 new people would add the alleles to this gene pool. So as you see, this gene pool changed dramatically. So just few people, it could be 2, 3, 5 or 12 people, if they would join this group, they would dramatically change gene pool variations of the alleles in such a community. And now we have to state what is evolution is. Evolution is a change in allelic frequencies. And as you see, according to this picture, just few people can dramatically change frequencies of alleles, and that means they can dramatically change in short period of time evolution in this particular group. So this is not our answer, so we can cross out this answer. And let me jump to the answer C. And this time we have 40 members in a community that were isolated from the rest of the world for 8 generations. So once again, imagine that these alleles represent a gene pool of such a group. So what would happen to this group after 8 generations? After only 1 generation, this community would lose 50% of their allele diversity due to inbreeding. So in the following generation we would be able to find much few alleles. So in just 1 generation in such community we are going to lose about 50% of the alleles, and with next generation we even can find less alleles in such community, once again due to inbreeding. So as you know, if we take, for example, 2 totally different varieties of the same plant, and if we want to make a pure line, we can breed these two plants, and after 10 generations we are going to get a pure breed. So all the progeny of such cross would be genotypically uniform. And this is very important. For example, as a farmer, you would be interested in all your plants to be uniform, to produce uniform harvest, the same size fruits, for example, that would ripe at the same time. And inbreed lines or pure lines of plants would give such opportunity for the farmer, because all these plants would be genetically uniform, would be inbreed. So once again, let's take a look at this picture. So we started with this gene pool, and just after 8 generations we ended with this community to be so highly inbreed that this religious community could call themselves brothers and sisters, and when they would say so, they would really mean so, because they would be genotypically uniform, just like one family. So as you see, this also means rapid change in allelic frequencies, and such a change shouldn't be in this direction for evolution. So we start with uniform community, and during evolution we would get more diverse community, but evolution just means change in allelic frequencies. So if we started with this community with these allelic frequencies and end up after 8 generations with these allelic frequencies, we also call this evolution, because rapid change in allelic frequencies. So we can cross out this answer also. So answer C means that such community can rapidly change from the genetic point of view. Now let's consider the last answer, answer B, Japan today. And population of Japan, if I'm not mistaken, about 130 millions. And just imagine, can this community rapidly change or not? 130 millions is a large number. So could we expect rapid changes in allelic frequencies in such large community? What can cause such rapid change in allelic frequencies? For example, could it be genetic drift in the form of migration of people? For example, if say 1 million Chinese would come to Japan, or Koreans, would this affect gene pool of Japanese people? And probably not to much extent, because even 1 million, if we compare to 130 millions, wouldn't change the gene pool as dramatically as in this example, where we have just 12 people and another 12 people would join them. This of course would be rapid dramatic change in the allelic frequencies, changing of allelic frequencies in this gene pool. And also in this example, answer C, we also saw that there also during a generation there were rapid change in allelic frequencies. But if we consider Japan today, there is not such factors that may influence allelic frequency in this society. So our choice would be answer B. So Japan, from genetic point of view, would be more genetically stable than first and last variant discussed here. And stability means no evolution. So evolution is always means changes. And in our example, this would be change in allelic gene pool. Now, second question. High frequencies of rare genetically inherited traits in people who share a common ancestor is most likely the result of answer A, natural selection, answer B, the founder principle, answer C, genetic drift, and D, Huntington's disease. And in this list, one of the answers stand out of the list, just like, for example, if I would give you a list: table, chair, sofa, and apple. What would stand out from this list? Of course, this would be apple, because the rest would be furniture, and apple is a fruit. So Huntington disease is also stand out of this list. This cannot be an answer, because this is going to be a result and not a cause, and we are looking for one of these causes left that would cause this result. Once again, higher frequencies of rare genetically inherited traits. So, can it be due to natural selection? And actually, it cannot be, because usually naturally selected traits looks like a bell-shaped curve, where we have here extremes of trait, and here we have where most of the trait would be distributed in the middle position. So, for example, imagine that this is trait for tallness, for height in people, and of course majority of the people would be here in the middle, and we would have very few people who is going to be very short and very few people who is going to be very tall. So usually natural selection is stabilizing. So as you see, bell-shaped curve represent stabilizing natural selection. Now we're left with two answers: B, the founder principle, and C, genetic drift. And genetic drift can work in both ways. So if we have, as I already explained here, community, and we have genetic drift, and new allelic frequencies may change, and we may have more variation in alleles here. So this is due to genetic drift. But genetic drift can work in both directions. So imagine that we start with this community, and just randomly people who represent or who have these alleles would migrate and start a new community here, more uniform genetically. So only these alleles would be left here. So due to genetic drift, we also may have a situation when some of the alleles in society could be lost. And this example represents situation where due to genetic drift, some of the new alleles were gained by this community. So we can cross out answer C, and the only correct answer left is answer B, the founder principle. And what it is, imagine that initially we have this community, a rather diverse community with diverse gene pool, and now imagine that one couple left and started a new community. So initially there was only one couple, and then this couple had progeny, and in the following generations we would have more and more progeny, but all of them would be genetically uniform if we compare with this community, because here we have founder principle. We have by chance only two people who would have the same alleles, and they would start a new whole community that would be genetically uniform. And example would be Indians, found in Central and South America, whose blood type is O. They almost 100% belong to this blood group. Those in other parts of the world, we can find people who would be more diverse. They may have alleles A, B, and that means they can belong to the blood group A, blood group B, and blood group AB. So now imagine that one of these people may have some genetic disorder, and when we have two people who would found a new population, new community, if it is going to be a dominant trait, we have 50% chances that 50% of all progeny also would have this trait. If it is genetic disorder, 50% of the progeny also would have this genetic disorder. If it is going to be a recessive genetic disorder, we can expect that 50% would be carriers and about 1/8 would show up this recessive genetic disorder phenotypically. So our choice answer B. So once again, high frequencies of rare genetically inherited traits in people who share a common ancestor is most likely the result of founder principle. And this is all for today. Thank you for your attention. Please subscribe for my new videos that I post almost every day. Thumbs up if you like this video. Please write your comments, questions if you have any, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.